Chapter 57 to 59. General POV. On an island hidden from the world, a branch base of the Revolutionary Army was located. Inside the base, Monkey D. Dragon was sitting in a chair while reading a newspaper. His eyes were slowly squinting at the newspaper with his usual expressionless face. Time passed as he noticed someone walking towards the room. Tap, 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 tap. Dragon averted his gaze and looked at the door, and soon it opened with a creak sound. Hey, old man, I'm done training. Seeing the blonde boy who was injured with bruises on his torso, Dragon smiled. All right, Sabo, now take some rest, he said in his natural gruff voice. Rest is also a part of training. As he said this, the blonde Sabo nodded. He turned around to leave, but suddenly remembered something. Oh, by the way, he called out to Dragon, who had gone back to reading, causing him to look up. Where is Hack? I didn't see him anywhere. Dragon just smiled. Don't worry, he is fine. He has gone on a mission. Nodding, Sabo didn't ask further questions and ran from there. As he left, Dragon's face also returned to the expressionless one, and his eyes gleamed with strangeness for a second, before returning to normal. Let's see what's happening in the sky. Whiskey Peak. Robin was in the mayor's building, working hard. She was writing some articles while glancing in front of her now and then. In front of her, a bottle of whiskey was kept. She wanted to take a sip. She has become quite an addict these days. Slowly, she reached out her hand and grabbed the bottle. One sip won't do any harm, she said, and tried to pull the bottle, but it felt heavy. No, I shouldn't, he said, not to drink. Sighing, Robin put the bottle in the drawer and went back to writing. She had a lot of work these days, and it was boring and monotonous to do them without him around. She feels cramped in here alone, doing work. She stopped writing, and after a long silence, Robin sighed. Am I doing this right? What if my nightmare comes true? Robin rubbed her temples with a pained face. I don't want to lose him. Maybe I should really leave, but I'm sure he will search for me. Robin slammed the table and leaned back on the chair. I guess. She opened the drawer and pulled out the bottle. There is no helping my drunk self. Her face reflected on the glass bottle as she opened the bottle cap. This was the second year since the guild's creation, and by this time, the name of the wingless Valkyries has traveled far and long. Even people like Shanks knew about it, though in the end, nobody cared about bounty hunters. After all, they are naturally weaker than Marines or pirates. Though there were cases like the appearance of strong bounty hunters before, they sooner or later turned into pirates. So some surely were keeping an eye out for a possible recruit for their ranks. Though not everyone interested in this information was from factions, some were certain individuals. Dark King Rayleigh. One of them was him, the Pirate King's first crewmate, Silver's Rayleigh. He was in Shacky's rip-off bar with another individual that's not from a faction, Shacky, Rayleigh's partner. She was smoking a cigarette while leaning on the counter, while Rayleigh was at a table not so far away drinking sake. Hey, what do you think of the kid who's been on the news since a few days? She asked while resting her hands on the table. Oh, you mean the bounty hunter kid. Rayleigh took a gulp. Gah, I'm not sure, but why do you ask? It's strange you are asking me those things, haha. Shacky stayed silent and looked up. I mean his wings, what do you think? An effect of Zoan? Maybe a mythical Zoan? Like Hito Hito no Mi, model angel. Hearing Shacky's words, Rayleigh laughed. Nah, I won't go that far. Actually, he gives me Skypiean vibes. Makes me remember the days our crew spent in Skypea. Was such a good time. Shacky just giggled lightly. Go and visit Skypea someday if you want. Nope, my days are over. My adventure died with Roger dying. Rayleigh sighed lightly, but he still had his smile on his face. Actually, if I think about it, him having an angel fruit would be kind of cool. I want to see King fighting him, haha. Shacky just looked afar, out of the bar, and smiled. Well, guess the world might change soon. He's not the only one here, after all. A fishman named Jinbei became a Shichibukai. More surprisingly, even a former celestial dragon Don Quixote da Flamingo became a Shichibukai and took over Dressrosa just this month. Rayleigh laughed hearing her. Oh, things are happening, I see. But will the world change this soon? Maybe, but I don't think it will yet. We have to wait at least another 6 years. Shacky tilted her head in curiosity. Such a bold guess? Why? Ha, Roger's son is 12 now. Wait for a few more years. The world will once again see the will of D. Rayleigh took a mouthful of sake and laughed out loud. Shacky just sighed. Roger's son, let's see. In a marine base a little far from Whiskey Peak, the now Commodore Hina was resting on her chair. Boring. Hina is bored. She never felt like this before, though she was feeling it now. Boredom. Not paying attention to her job. A few months ago, she got promoted to the rank of a Marine Commodore, yet things didn't feel like before. Things were boring. Amon didn't visit as frequently as before. The last time she met him was 3 months ago. Now most hunts are done by his hunters, not him. Sigh. Hina released a big sigh and picked up a den mushy from the table. Soon she typed a number and called. It was the Marine HQ. It didn't take long for the call to reach after making a kacha sound. Hello, Hina speaking. Oh, it's the new Commodore, Black Cage? Yes, this is HQ. Hina will need a break for a few weeks. Is that fine? Hina asked as she rubbed her forehead. Huh, you newly got promoted. That's not possible. Listen, you piece of shit. Hina jumped up and glared at the den mushy on the table. Hina needs a break from things. It took Hina 2 seconds to realize what she did, though she didn't apologize. She simply didn't care. In the end, she was given a break for 5 weeks, which was a bit too much for a newly appointed rear admiral. But they had no other choice since she was too stubborn to listen to them, though her reputation among higher-ups did go down for this. Warlord Crocodile. Unlike the laid-back people around the country of Alabasta, its hero Crocodile was having a very infuriated heart. Crocodile has been here for 6 years now, and he had the plan to take over the country soon. He came here after getting beaten by Whitebeard, and has been here ever since, as the hero of Alabasta. Though his job has been being handled by another person these days, which was partially behind his fury. Though most of the reason was that the newly opened organization of his, the Baroque Works that he created a few months ago, isn't getting any recruits nor customers. This way his plans would fail. Crocodile had decided something by then. I have to eliminate someone. That guy is the definition of ant grows wings before dying. Crocodile chuckled and walked through the desert. Amon looked at her coldly before sighing. He rubbed his temple and gritted his teeth. All right, but first let me take care of that injury. What a race. Such loyalty, I want them to bow to me. Give their life for me. Start an orgy in the temple at my single order. This is why I didn't just straight out destroy them. Amon laughed internally. If I did, how would I find such nice robots? Robots under my full control. Before she could react, Amon crouched down, since he was tall for Yona, and took out a swirly-looking dial. It was a spray, which he sprayed in her throat injury, and it healed instantly. That type of small injury was nothing for Amon's medical knowledge. While Yona had a surprised face, Amon was thinking about important things. This is the reason why I'm not just destroying Burka and taking the fruit. Having loyal people like her would be a blessing. Nobody should underestimate the power of religious people. Amok thought while smiling in his mind. He obviously was the one to order Due to reveal the truth of his wings. Though even Due didn't know the truth. After healing her wound and using a bandage around her neck, Amon returned to his seat, while Yona also sat down with a small blush. Why yes, so like I was saying, you don't have to be harsh on him. Guess Due is a nice man, she said while averting her gaze as Amon smiled. All right, since you asked, I won't. But please continue, he said. Taking a deep breath, Yona regained her composure. Well, if you don't mind, would you tell me more about the old man? As she said this, Amon made a thinking posture. He didn't know much about the Thunder God's appearance in his old days, so he has to make something up. After thinking for a while, Amon opened his mouth. I'm not sure actually. He was made of pure light, pure blue light. Though I can tell he had a long beard and large wings. Similar to mine actually. Amon said as Yona smiled brightly. Yes. She nodded. He indeed had a long beard in his last days. While Amon smiled at Lady Luck, Yona continued. Actually, unlike the average Birkins, the archpriests always possess vaster knowledge on the legends and the Thunder God himself. She said, the seed of Thunder God's tree, the current god that we worship in actuality, is a type of fruit that is common in the blue seas. Amon was genuinely surprised hearing her. So the archpriests are aware of their god being a devil fruit, yet they still worship it? I didn't know that. Just after the Birkin priests' visit in the upper yard, Due along with a few other people was ordered to come and spend their time in Burka now and then, which then extended to Due living a vacation in Burka for a year now. This year, Due with his observation hockey was able to spy on many things, and pass them to Amon, however. They were just the basics, and a little more than basics. He didn't know things that people of the temple knew, let alone possessing the knowledge of the archpriestess. While Amon was contemplating this, Yona continued. However, Thunder God was able to place a part of his divine soul in that fruit, making it more powerful than ever. After doing so, he finally left the world for the immortal land. While she said this, Amon's face almost turned deadpan. So just bullshit? After that, Amon explained how the old man trained him, yet he wasn't able to learn anything. After one day, when he took a 30 days vacation from work and solely trained under the old man, he was able to advance a little. Amon showed some evidence by moving his hair and other body parts, while Yona looked at it surprised. Amon tried to correct her that the old man was a Shondorian warrior stated by himself, while Yona corrected that the Thunder God was just being humble, saying things like how he left his soul in the upper yard for a test. After a long 6 hours of talking about this and that, Amon was reaching the end of the story of the old man. At the end of my 30 days training, I advanced a lot. Yet I couldn't move my wings. One day when I woke up, I couldn't find the old man. Surprisingly, I even had large wings like this. I remember how very envious I was of his wings. And after remembering such, it didn't take me a second to understand that he did something like merging his soul with my wings. Amon said with a sad voice. In the end, it was me who killed him, and now I'm showing off these wings. Yona leaned forward and clasped her hands with his. Please don't be sad, after all. That was a part of Thunder God's legacy. He, in fact, already achieved divinity and left for the immortal land. You can take it as a gift from him. Really? Amon was surprised. Bitch, what? Immortal land? Pfft. He hardly controlled his laugh. Are you telling the truth? Yes, I won't lie with something like this. Though you are not wrong, you do have a part of his soul. I'd say you were in reality chosen as someone eligible to receive the seed of the Thunder God's tree. Huh. Amon frowned lightly. Isn't he your god? Yes, but no. We archpriests worship the fruit since it has the soul of Thunder God, while normal citizens and priests, even the high priests, worship it only because they have been doing so for years. She said. According to the hypothesis of archpriests from the many previous generations, someone with wings such as yours was only supposed to appear when Thunder God's soul merges with him. Saying this, she sighed. In truth, my master, the previous archpriest died of a heart attack after learning that a man with movable wings arrived among the Shandians. He felt betrayed that a Shandian was chosen with his soul, not a Burkhan. Hypothesis. Trying his best to not cringe, Amon asked her. What about you? Don't you feel betrayed? I do a little. But not much, after all. My life was to worship the soul of God. It doesn't have to be a Burkhan. I see it as my master's fault by viewing things like that. Damn, such an insightful girl. Amon smiled at her. I wonder what services God can receive. That's for later. I would like you to take the fruit in your hand. I'm sure 2 parts of the soul will react, and you'll learn a way to use the fruit. Fuck yes, Amon jumped in his mind. This way, he'd be a true god with actual worshippers. Suicide bombers. But first, Yona got up from her seat as Amon raised his eyebrow. Since you have the soul of the Thunder God in you, you must showcase some thunder abilities. Huh. Amon's current wings didn't have any metal scraps attached to it, and even if it was sure to have been fetched. Come stand up. I can't wait to see the soul of Thunder God shining in thunder. Yona exhaustively walked towards Amon, while Amon just sat there. Hello. Amon stayed silent as Yona looked at him with her head tilting. Is anything a problem? Amon released a sigh hearing her. So all the previous explanations, were they for nothing? His voice was chill, as cold as a winter night. Yona froze in her spot hearing him. I talked for 7 hours. Couldn't you have just done the useless tests at first, and do the talking later? Sky Burka. With Amon revealing himself and Yona overreacting, the Shandians and militias were watching the scene from the sidelines. Among them, Wiper was standing with his spear around his shoulders and his hands resting on it. He was bedridden for a week after battling Amon, though he still plans to challenge him after returning from Burka. Currently, he was just looking at the scene with bored eyes. Yawn. Wiper wiped his eyes. What do the Burkans want anyways? They visited us more than a year ago, and now requested to meet us again. Wiper thought. Wheel, who cares? He probably has everything planned already. That's why Dewey and others were here spying. Wiper chuckled as he noticed Enel and the other high priests coming here from far. Damn, would there be a fight? A war maybe? Our strongest force is here, and even then, I am here, Wiper thought as he again felt grateful for his new powers. I will fucking burn this place down. Snickering to himself, Wiper moved his attention to the drama ahead. Please forgive me for how we treated you the past 7 days. Amon was looking in front of him. The red-haired priestess was bowing with her hands clasped. This type of behavior confused and shocked the Burkans to the core. After all, the archpriestess is only supposed to bow to God himself. Yes, this boy is a god as well, however. They were aware he was just a mayor. Likewise, Enel stopped in his tracks and looked at this scene with wide-open eyes, and his eyes were red with anger. No, you bitch. You are only supposed to bow to me after I become god. He wanted to dash forward and chop her head, but before he could do so, he felt the gaze of a predator. He flinched as he sensed the glance of Amon. Seeing his cold gaze, he instinctively took a step back, though Amon soon smiled as he released a breath. Phew. What the fuck is wrong with him? The high priestess behind Enel frowned. High priest Enel, did you just curse? Ignoring Enel, Amon looked ahead at Yona and raised her head by holding her shoulders. Archpriestess, calm down. You are supposed to serve your own god only, he said while his wings soared upwards. I'm just a normal man, a man looking to achieve eternal peace. Surprised after hearing Amon, Yona looked up at his face, though his wings picked most of her interest. Ignoring her surprise, she then looked around and noticed the large crowd surrounding this place. While the high priests were looking at her with a glare and eyes filled with questions, the The normal people were looking at Amon like a divine being. They respected the archpriestess just after God, after all. So seeing her bow before him, they were sure he was someone special. Yona averted her gaze and looked at Amon with an apologetic face. Please, come with me inside the temple. We need to talk. It's important. What? As she said this, Enel jumped forward. Archpriestess, this is too much. Are you out of your mind? The temple is a holy place. No mortal shall. Silence, High Priest Enel. It's my decision. Yona said lightly and pulled Amon forward. She tried her best to maintain her calm demeanor for now. Hundreds of years ago, the Burkans served the moon god, who never responded to their prayers. At that time, one day, after losing everything he had, a man named Raijin left Burka to wander around the world as a hermit. At the sea for 1,000 years, and at the mountains for 1,000 years, breathing the wind and drinking pure water, he passed the training of a sage. Enduring it all, he gained the life return. He still had nothing, so he kept wandering around. By living like this for hundreds of years, he was one day able to transcend and became a thunder god of storm. He returned to the sky in his last old days, as the moon god worshipping was dropped and the thunder god worshipping started. Yona was telling Amon the legend of Raijin, the god of thunder of Burka. Though Amon, using his spies for 2 years, knew the part of him going down in the blue sea and gaining enlightenment, thus transcending as a god, he didn't know about him being the creator of Skypiean. Looking at Yona, Amon was thinking hard. Maybe I'm wrong. I mean, legends are untrustable. He, after all, gained the thunder power after eating the Gorogoro no Mi. So this may as well be a legend in the end. Amon thought and decided to add some words. Oh, by the way, are you aware there is an island named Raijin in the Blue Sea? Amon asked as Yona's eyes grew up. It rains thunder there, though for some reason, I do feel attached to that place. Yona jumped up and looked at Amon's eyes. Really? That must be a place God visited during his past years. But most importantly, do you really feel attached to that place? Well, yes. But I never entered it. It's dangerous. It's thunder. Amon scratched his head as Yona sat down again after realizing her behavior. Amon again opened his mouth. Red Dragon Princess. Oh, is it okay to call you that still? Amon corrected himself as Yona blinked with an expressionless face. She tried her best to control her excitement. Yes, we priests don't care about such trivial matters, she said. Amon nodded and again opened his mouth. Anyway, my question is, why are you telling me these? I'm sure you don't want these confidential legends to get out of here. Do not worry. We would love if God's legend flows throughout the world, she said. But there really is a reason for me to directly tell this to you, especially inside this special chamber of the temple, she said as Amon looked around. It was a room inside the god's temple, a temple made of white marble. This room is soundproof, and even though people can still pry with mantra, they wouldn't dare to with Archpriestess inside. Or at least not always. I see. Amon averted his gaze. Then please do tell me. I already know 100% of the legends here. Though I'm missing actual information which you might know, I have made the story that will complete with the legend. Hope that the information doesn't mess up my plans. Amon said while smirking in his head. He was aware of her next words very precisely. He, in fact, has been playing with Burka, even when he was down on the Blue Sea. Yona could sense Amon's emotions, the fabricated emotions only. She then pointed at his wings. It's them, I recall the Thunder God, after attaining life return, having movable wings. Amon made a confused face in the front hearing her, while having a shocking state inside. Damn, what a guy. Maybe he really is the creator of Skypiean. From what I recall, Yona cut his thoughts. You met an old man in the underground of Upper Yard. A few seconds of silence passed, as a large frown appeared on Amon's face as he heard this. And who revealed that information to you? She stayed silent and sighed. It was Guest Douay, but please calm down, it wasn't his fault. It was. Slam. Slamming the table, Amon got up from his seat. We will continue our talk on a later day. Now I have some work. Saying this, Amon started to walk towards the door. Please stop. Before Amon could leave through the door, Yona stepped forward with her sword unsheathed and scratching her throat. Please. I swear to God it was my fault for asking him that. And I also swear that nobody other than me knows of this. If you want to keep this secret, you can. Kill me after hearing me out, but please hear me out before leaving. That's... Yona averted her face and looked away with her body shaking a little. Enough. No need for excuses. You want to see thunder? You see thunder. Amon said and got up from his seat. Yona thought he would try to leave now. And this time, even her throat cutting won't work. However, proving her wrong, Amon didn't take a step forward. Rather, his wings moved. They soared up and became a little bright. Yes, Amon's wings both soared upwards and had their edge pointed towards each other, only keeping a small space. Soon after, a bright ball started to form in between the small gap. Divinity, Amon said coldly, as Yona had her eyes locked in the ball. Thunder God's wrath. Zap. A lightning bolt flashed towards Yona's face, while she closed her eyes in fright. Though luckily, the thunder only hit the marble wall behind her, gushing just a little away from her cheeks. While she had a frozen, surprised face, Amon slowly walked towards her and placed his hand on her cheek, rubbing them lightly. Do you still have any doubt? Yona didn't say anything. Not that she didn't want to, it's just she couldn't. Her legs were shaking and Amon's smile only made it worse for her situation. In reality, Amon's wings still had the Klima exoskeleton on. They were still around the outer central bone, however, no one could see them, not even observation hockey users. The reason is because, well, technology. After nicely asking the AI since she did a very good job this time around, Amon was able to fetch a special robe, the one he was wearing before, along with a few handkerchief-sized cloth. They were special, of course. They had the invisibility property, like Sanji's Germa suit. Amon was wearing the robe before, using which along with his newly learned hiding ability, giving him the ability to wander around places filled with observation hockey users, while the small handkerchiefs were tied around his exoskeleton, thus rendering it invisible. Cack clang. Amon was looking at Yona, who was using her sword to open a golden chest. Gold was rare in Burka since close to non-existent, as the only thing made of gold is the chest and the sword's hilt and cover. In truth, the sword wasn't that great for fighting purposes since it was breakable into 2 pieces, while a special key is hidden inside. Currently, both of them are in an underground chamber that nobody other than the archpriest of each generation knows about. Amon was waiting for Yona to finish, but due to her shaking hands, it took quite a while. Sighing, Amon walked forward, deciding to help her out. Wow, it's shiny! Amon exclaimed in awe while looking inside the now open chest. Inside of it, a blue-colored shining pineapple-looking fruit was kept. The seed of the Thunder God's tree, or better known as Goro Goro no Mi, the Rumble Rumble fruit. Yona also had shining eyes looking ahead, since she only saw the fruit a few times, since she was an only newly chosen archpriestess. Looking at the fruit, she wasn't sure anymore if doing this was the right choice or not. After all, her master died in shock after learning the truth. The fact that the Birkin god gave away his soul, even more so to an outsider. They didn't even realize that their hypothesis might be wrong. After all, they were too religious for their own good. Yona asked herself, is it a good choice to do the opposite like what she was doing right now? She didn't know, but she would soon enough. Yona was looking ahead inside the chest which they put on a table, so it was quite hard for her short stature to look into it. Amon glanced at her and smirked. Such a nice atmosphere. Inside the dark room, which was only lit by a single match light and the fruit itself, Amon's teeth were shining while he was grinning in the dark. Oh, by the way, Lord God should decide what to do with the fruit. I don't really have any idea on it. Yona said lightly. I would guess you'd have to eat it. Forgive me if I'm being too presumptuous. If really the case, I'd suggest you eat it in front of everyone, as that will prove many of their doubts. Yona kept talking, while Amon slowly pushed his hand towards her neck and lightly poked a spot. Yona looked back at him with confusion, only to find a golden shining pocket watch in front of her. Caught off guard, she almost took a step back, though she wasn't able to. She was already under his control. Your mind will go blank for 120 seconds, and you will forget about this incident after waking up, Amon said, and Yona's eyes lost their light. Yes. Before she could realize it, she stopped moving from her spot as Amon walked closer to the chest. His control over hypnotism was good, though not good enough for it to take effect on a proficient mantra user like Yona. He was lucky that his technique was 400% improved by the room's darkness, the distribution of light around it, and finally her scared and shaky willpower from the previous incident. Picking up the fruit in his hand, Amon kept grinning like the madman he was. Now it's time for real power to back my title as God. Laughing maniacally, Amon put his hands inside the bag on his side. He can't just eat it and claim to be God. If so, all this bullshitting would be for nothing. After all, Enel wouldn't have destroyed Burka and Canon if the Birkins accepted anyone with a thunder ability as their god. Well, convincing them is easy. A few minutes later, Amon and Yona were outside standing above the stairs of the temple, while all the people currently residing in Burka were below. Yona felt a little strange, as if she missed something, though the dark room didn't make her recall anything special. Among the crowd of Birkins and Shandians, along with a very few Blue Sea visitors, Amon noticed an interesting figure. Though for now, he just ignored him since doesn't have to bother him here. Thinking such, he glanced at the confused faces of people around. While everyone was looking at Amon confused, Yona decided to take a step forward. Everyone, she said as everyone's gaze fell upon her. Taking a deep breath, Yona pointed towards Amon beside her. The one you are seeing here is someone chosen by the previous Thunder God. Everyone's eyes grew. Chosen? Chosen as what? Yona read their faces and opened her mouth. Yes, he was chosen to succeed the power of thunder, according to the previous god's wish. She said, "Behold, Skypiean god, Amon would be declared as god today." What? It was Enel again, though this time he wasn't alone. Every one of the Burkan was shouting with anger and confusion present in their voice. "Please calm down. Let me explain." Yona raised her sword lightly up in the air. "Only us archpriests know the truth of God. Please let me enlighten you all with the knowledge, AHH." Before she could finish her words, a rock hit her head and she started bleeding. "You bitch. Just because you are the archpriestess doesn't mean you can disrespect God. Come down here, bitch." It was a random Burkan who had many more stones in his hand. "Bitch. Asterisk whistle asterisk." Looking at the guy, Wiper who was around whistled lightly. "Damn, what the fuck? Was I like that back in the day too?" He noticed the guy about to throw another stone, though he didn't bother to stop him, as the next moment the guy threw another stone. Fat. Though this time, the stone was stopped by a white wing, shining under the sunlight, which penetrated the dark cloud above. Huh. This reacquainted the people of Amon's existence. Amon the man with large noble wings. Looking down at them, Amon had a cold face. Obviously, they won't just let a random guy take their god's place. Amon chuckles to himself as he had his hands around Yona's shoulders. Time to prove I am eligible, and they are not. How ungrateful would one need to be to hurt their own archpriestess? Kill yourselves. While ignoring the reactions from his words, Amon looked around and noticed the perfect pawn to show the demonstration of a worthy soul. "Hey you," Amon said, pointing his fingers at Enel far from here. Enel frowned. "What you? Who do you think you are?" "Oh, shut up. Be grateful," Amon said and slipped his hands in his bag, taking out a blue pineapple fruit. "You recognize this? This is the seed of the thunder god's tree." Enel's eyes grew big. This was one of the very few times he had ever seen the fruit with his own two eyes. To be more specific, it's a devil fruit. Enel's eyes grew up as he instantly thought of a plan. "You heretic!" Enel jumped forward to attack Amon. Yet, only one of his swings from the wing sent him back to where he jumped from. "Thud cough, you bastard. How dare you call the holy fruit a devil fruit?" "PFT." Amon laughed lightly hearing him. Now, don't talk like that. Before overreacting, ask our blue sea friend over there," he said, pointing his fingers at a man far from here. The man was covered in a black robe, his face hiding under. Amon recognized him easily, even which race he was from. "I'm sure he can confirm what a devil fruit is." Amon smiled at him lightly. "Mr. Air, let's go with Dark Robe Man." "Yes, Mr. Dark Robe Man, you can see we are about to start a war at this rate. Do you mind helping me to stop it from taking place?" he said as the man stayed silent. He was the fishman Hack, the guy from Revolutionary Army. A few days ago, he came here and even had talks with Amon while he was disguised as a beggar. He was very surprised to learn about him being the god of Skypea, though he didn't recognize him as the bounty hunter yet. Thinking hard, he decided to intervene. As a member of Revolutionary, he would love to stop an unnecessary war. Reaching the conclusion, he opened his mouth from underneath the robe. "Indeed, it's a devil fruit," he said as everyone's eyes grew wide. "Or that's what we call it in the Blue Sea. Maybe it really is a holy fruit, but that's not appropriate for the Blues." He gave the answer that would keep the face of both sides, as Amon nodded. However, the Birkins obviously didn't trust a single man's words who was hiding under a robe. Yet luckily there were 3 more Blue Sea people around to confirm the words. Even then, they didn't believe any of it, though they were forced to look at the reality, while Wiper was ordered to show some of his fire abilities. Seeing which Hack looked at it wide eyes, while the Birkins started looking at him like a devil who came to harm their god, though they soon realized the world wasn't so small. While the Birkins were in an existential crisis, Enel took a few seconds to figure things out, as he reached a conclusion. Yes, while the other Birkins, even Yona, was considering if their life was a lie or not, Enel was planning on his mind. "So if what they said is real, I think the fruit would give me thunder abilities after eating, won't it?" He laughed in his mind and prepared to try something. "No, we don't believe it. After all, we never saw how the seed looks before. Even though I only saw the seed a few times, which made things foggy for me. Maybe what the Blue Sea people said is true, but what if you guys hid the actual fruit and presented this devil fruit?" he said and looked at Yona with a smirk. "Who is to say that Archpriestess Yona didn't lose herself to humane pleasure, and you two are working together?" "Enel, how could you say such a thing? We have been serving God together for years now." Yona yelled with her eyes teary. Her wound did hurt, though the words from the previous Birkins and Enel hit her stronger. "Shut up, you shameless WH. Enough," Amon said lightly, interrupting his babbage of words. Then, according to the words of the Blue Sea visitors, "You should be able to get some kind of power after eating this, right?" Some Blue Sea people around nodded, as Amon smiled. "Then here, catch this," Amon said and threw the fruit to Enel, whose eyes grew as he barely caught it. "What the?" Yes. Even heaven is on my side. Who would have expected the kid to be so dumb? Haha. Enel gave a last glance at Yona before opening his mouth to take a bite, but he stopped at the last moment. Wait, is he really so dumb? Or is there a grand scheme behind it? After thinking for a while, Enel couldn't reach any conclusion. Ugh, am I thinking too much? Hey, will you eat it or not? Maybe I should give it to the large muscular man behind you, Hearing Amon, Enel glared before deciding. Fuck it, I will see what happens. Munch. Enel took a bite, as he almost spat it out due to the horrible texture, but he forced himself to gulp. 0.1 second. Boom. The next moment, Enel's body exploded into bits. Oh, look how the unworthy rat dies. Not only the Burkan, but even Hack was also looking at this spectacle with unimaginably wide eyes. Minutes ago, inside the temple, Amon slipped his hands inside his bag. There, he took out 2 fruits. Both of them were pineapple devil fruit to be precise. One was claw fruit from before, which reincarnated in the vast forest of the upper yard. The other one was the tattoo fruit, the ability to create any type of tattoo on their body. They were weak abilities, though Amon didn't care. The only thing he did care about was their appearance, a blue pineapple to be specific. Amon believed the Gorogoro no Mi would be a blue pineapple fruit from many fan arts he saw in his previous life, so he came to Burka painting them blue already. Yes, he might have been wrong, but he had more than 17 plans for that scenario. Ignoring his thoughts, Amon quickly used a knife to cut those small box-like pieces from the pineapples, cutting those from both of them. After doing that, he interchanged the small pieces of both fruits and stuck the pieces with special glue, thus making them look the same. Amon chuckled lightly. Now if anyone gets a bite of this, that would be the same as eating 2 devil fruits. Ha. Laughing lightly and noticing that 79 seconds had passed of the 120 seconds, Amon quickly put one of them back to the bag and picked up the actual Gorogoro no Mi and took a disgusting bite. Gorogoro is the best Logia devil fruit. Yes, it will be beaten by Magma in the damage category, Glint in the speed category, Tremor in the destruction category, yet it's best. Amon was trying to wander his mind from the taste. It's a jack of all trades, master of none. But like the saying goes, jack of all trades, master of none, yet is better than a master of one. Even then, it's not like this would be my only fruit. Haha munch. Amon completed his thoughts with a bite. Fuck, I should have expanded the time limit. Trying his best to not puke, and ignoring the disgusting taste as well as the pain in his head from the sudden enhancement in observation hockey, Amon put the other blue fruit in the place of Gorogoro no Mi, and then gulped the actual one in a hole. By then, 118 seconds had passed. Wah. People around the explosion were covered in blood, while Amon looked down at them from up the stairs. They had eyes filled with horror. This was something truly gruesome to them, people who've been peaceful. A human body exploding into nothing but blood? How is it possible? Before they could react, surprising them again, Amon slowly glided from up the stairs and crouched on the bloody floor while picking up the red-colored half-eaten fruit. He could feel his bag in his side moving a little, indicating the reincarnation of normal pineapple fruits that he had in his bag. Amon then looked around. Hundreds of years ago, the Thunder God left his soul in his devil fruit, this fruit. By doing so, the label of devil was removed from the fruit, and yet it became such that only someone who possesses a part of his soul would be able to eat it without dying. Amon said as Yona looked at him from far with a surprised face. He didn't talk much after getting out of the room. So was he processing the information he got after coming in touch with another part of God's soul? That must be it. Yet, by the time Thunder God Raijin realized the fact, he had already left the mortal world, Amon said and stood up with the fruit. He was forced to send part of his soul, which would one day have chosen someone and make him eligible to eat the fruit, and here I am. Amon laughed lightly, while everyone looked at him horrified. Ignoring them, Amon looked at the blood. See, this is what happens when an unworthy person would try to get the power of God. You can try to take the half-eaten fruit from me and try again, I don't mind. Amon chuckled while nobody dared to move. Oh, no courageous one. Okay. Then let me show you what the worthy and the chosen one tries to gain the power that is naturally his. Munch. In the next second, Amon took a bite of the fruit, the disgusting-tasting fruit whose essence had already moved on after reincarnating. Amon had confidence that he won't explode since he did try this type of experiment before. More than 57 times to be precise. Amon kept eating the fruit, while people around him stepped back while covering their face in fear. Yet, nothing happened. It was then when someone pointed out, who? Look, the fruit he's eating. It's clad in High Priest Enel's blood. He's a monster. A demon. The fruit was covered in Enel's blood, of course, but anything for the greater good. While they were acting stupid and taking steps back, the already dark sky became darker as soon. Thundering started above there. Monster? Demon? Are you disrespecting your own god now? Amon's voice vibrated throughout the whole burqa, while the rain started to fall super fast. Do you all still want to test me? Then let me prove you the power of a true god. Amon started to float in the air with electricity around his body. His wings were not moving, but they were preparing to. In midair, he started to spin fast while his wings flapped themselves. Wing sword style, thunder tornado. Tens of tornadoes made of thunder were seen around burqa that day. Yes, that's the day burqa met its end. People don't fear God. Fear itself is God.